What's up, everybody? Today I want to talk about the ROI that people don't talk about much, okay? Everybody's familiar with I say everybody, that's a very assumption. People are familiar with the normal term of ROI. What is your return on investment, right? And that is a very important thing to consider when doing an investment property. However, I don't think it's the most important thing to consider when considering whether or not you should do a property. See, there's a difference of doing an ROI on a existing property that you've already done, right? And you're trying to see what you've made. That is very important. But where a lot of people get in is you start looking at the ROI on a property that you're currently considering. Is this worth me doing? And you're like, well, shoot, the numbers on this look like they're huge. So let's not just start there. Let's look at the other ROI, which is the risk on investment, right? Because the return on investment projected really doesn't mean anything unless you consider the risk on investment. How much risk are you taking in this deal? I like to talk about that there are two major rules. Excuse me, as I choke up and cry about it. I'm just very attached to these rules. There are two major rules to doing investing, especially in real estate, but I think in general, real estate's just the only one I really know. Rule number one, the most important rule of doing real estate investment is don't lose money. Rule number two, the second subsequent less important rule of real estate investing is do make money. Okay? So if we want to avoid losing money more than we want to try to make money, what does that tell us? It tells us we have to consider our risks very carefully before we get into the investment. My name is Grant Kemp from CreativeCashFlow.com. I'm really looking forward to talking about this topic with you guys today. Thank you for being with me. This is an important thing to discuss. We're going to be monitoring the comments, so please drop a comment. If it comes in live, I will address it live. If it does not come in live, I will address it later. I will try to at least get into there. So I appreciate you guys being here. Ken, thank you for being here. It's been a while. Yes, you're right. I have been gone for a little bit, but it's been kind of nice. You know, hey, the whole point of doing real estate is to get those freedoms, and I took kind of a sabbatical. I kind of took off for about 6-7 months from real estate investing so that I could recharge and be a daddy and work on the cabin that we just bought and all that kind of stuff and spend time out there in the mountains driving everything. So he says, since you've been gone, I closed my first wholesale deal, adamantly looking for a property to owner finance. Congratulations, Ken. Really happy to hear that you were able to close that deal. That is just killer, man. I'm really glad to hear you say that. So keep on looking for that next deal. And here is a great way to think about the analysis of what you're doing. What is the risk? Okay. And this is why it got brought up. So if you're a member of CreativeCashFlow.com, we've got a mastermind group. It's phenomenal. By the way, I've got a big announcement for that here in a few minutes. I'll talk to you guys about. But every Monday night, we do a Q&A session where I just go through and I answer everybody's questions until the questions stop coming in. And one of my newer yet star students posted a question this last Monday night about a mobile park, right? A mobile home park. And it got me to thinking about this topic and how important it is, because mobile homes are one of those things that look great on paper. And I know a lot of people who have made good money in mobile homes. That's absolutely true, right? And I like the asset class for that reason. But what I will also point out to you, and I like to, for you to pay attention to in the world, is how many like big time, do it a lot, live in a super nice house, drive super nice cars, go on vacation all the time because they're still living within their means and they're able to do that kind of investors, do you know, that are like, yeah, bro, mobile home parks are the way to go, right? So it kind of begs some pause for a minute, right? Why would these people, at least that I know, right, at least in the circles that I've been, that are so in, how come they're not jumping on this asset class if that asset class does have such a better potential ROI, and it's the risk? One thing that I want you to realize is every number and every percentage that you talk about in real estate, whether that is, what basis you're willing to buy at. Like, I'm willing to buy at 70% of ARV minus repairs, or, hey, we're getting a 9.5% interest rate, or, whatever that is. Anytime you talk about a percentage, it is a reflection of risk. Very important to understand this principle. right? This is why you might get a better interest rate from a lending bank than I might get. Maybe you're a better, what's the word I'm looking for? A lower risk. Maybe you make 3 times as much as me and your expenses are half of mine. You might get a better expense or a better interest rate. Why is that? Because that percentage of interest is a reflection of how risky the bank feels that they are, that asset, that investment is. They feel like there's basically no way that I'm not going to get paid on this loan, so I'm okay with making 2% from Joe Borrower. Cesar, thank you for being here. I say Caesar, whichever way, however you say it. This is awesome. Glad you like the topic. But maybe Caesar is going to the bank and he has an excellent credit and makes 3 times as much as me and half that. They might say, okay, well, this is a sure bet. So we're going to give him a 2% interest. And then I go in there and they're like, okay, this is a pretty strong borrower. I'm going to give him 3%. They're still weighing out their risk. And we need to apply that principle to every facet of what we're doing in real estate. And I don't see that done necessarily enough. Now, here's where you can kind of get tripped up, is this is not an item to get into an analysis paralysis over either. This is kind of a sliding scale, kind of a, you got to kind of feel it and know thyself, know the industry, know the, what's the word I'm looking for? Landscape of what's going on, but you don't have to know every detail. So let me give another example of this. Okay, so previously in my previous life, as I was getting started, I say in my previous life, in this life, as I was getting started, and I did not yet have any assets, I would do deals that I would no longer do now. Okay, let me repeat that. When I got started and I did not have assets, I would do deals that I would no longer say yes to now. It doesn't mean that the investment changed. It means that my environment changed and my appetite/tolerance of risk has changed. So one of the things that I will oftentimes repeat with students is I will say, because as a creative executive, for example, right, we do these one-on-ones. I'll sit down one-on-one mentoring through Zoom calls. You get a certain amount of hours plus all the, the masterminds and the videos and, contacts and documents and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I'll talk about with my students here is I'll say, look, I don't care what you do, right? I care why you're doing what you're doing. And this is the same thing that I say about sellers. We don't care what sellers want. We care why the seller wants what they want. Now, in the context of sellers, it's so that we can solve the true issue that's deep down here, because guess what, guys? We're the professional. We're the ones that might know all the options. They may only know what HGTV is presented to them, and so they say, hey, I want X, because out of the options they know exist, X is the best one. But if we don't know what their why is behind that what, we might not know that, oh, well, hold on, you want X, but I can totally solve the reason you asked me for X. I can totally solve that, and it's going to cost me $15,000 less to do so. Done it all the time. The house I live in right now that I'm doing this from was that same way. They asked for a whole bunch of money up front that I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Found out the why. It's because they wanted to stay here, or stay in the school district, so the kids were, kind of going to the same school until summer ended. It was much easier for me to just let them stay rent-free for that 6 months or whatever. And it saved me $15,000, $18,000, something like that. So now in the context of making a decision on analyzing a deal and looking at your risk, the only reason that I will not accept for why you're doing a deal is because I need more deals, okay? That one is not a valid reason in my opinion. However, what is a valid reason is to say, look, I need more investments, I need more assets, and I know that the cash flow on this thing is super low, but in like 2-3 years, there's going to be a lot of equity on this deal, and so I'm just going to go ahead and set it up. I'm fine with essentially breaking even now. I'm going to get something under my belt, and in a few years, it's going to pay off for me. There's a reason. If you have a reason to do the deal that you're doing, stinking go for it. This is the best part about being a business owner, right? This is the whole deal. This is when you own your company, you get to use the logic and the information that you have in front of you to make the best decision for what you want for your company, for your income, for your family, whatever that might be. But risk tolerance is a very important part of that. And you have to understand how much risk you may be taking in that asset, what is getting put on the line, what is not getting put on the line, and what is return for that. And if it is a higher risk asset, you need a higher return. It's one of the things that if you're going to get into, for instance, like I was talking about mobile parks, right? Mobile home parks have much bigger numbers, but they also come with much larger risks. So you have to weigh for yourself, am I cool with that? Am I in an environment and a situation where I'm going to say, hey, it's okay for me to take a little bit of a riskier approach here? So what are some things that you might need to think about with that, right? Okay, what is your cash income right now? What is your cash flow looking like, right? Is it healthy? Do you need more? Are you not scraping by, right? How much cash reserves do you have? You're going to be able to make a lot of decisions based on those answers. And the irony is there's kind of this bell curve to it, right? At the beginning, you may be more willing to risk it all because you don't have much to risk. Then you start getting more and more assets, and you need to kind of be a little bit more conservative. You need to figure out, okay, I don't want to step into something that I'm not fully, aware of, capable of, whatever. That my risk here is what I don't know. So I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to be, well, as you gain that experience, then you might kind of get to this point where, yeah, now you got a lot of assets. But you're also going to be willing to risk it all. There, like I said, there's kind of this bell curve. The danger that I want you to avoid is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay? Now I'm going to pull that up here, see if I can find a illustration of that to show you guys. Here we go. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is right here. Let me see if I can get this. It's Pinterest. Maybe it'll open up in a big picture. Maybe not. We'll see. Oh my goodness, it is a huge picture. All right. So this is what we're talking about. Now, Dunning-Kruger effect is very important. Now do it on there? No, that's the iPad. It's very important to understand because it's very real. Look at the, I don't know, X and Y axis, the vertical axis, which is your confidence level. Look at the horizontal axis, which is your competence level. Okay? Too many times, investors make decisions as they've surmounted the peak of Mount Stupid. Right after you start to learn something, you start feeling like you're on top of the world, like you know everything, right? Until you start to become more and more competent. And as your competency grows, you're like, oh, holy crap, I did not realize how deep that well went. Woo, I don't know anything about this. And then the slope of enlightenment occurs as you learn more and more and you get back up to your confidence level because your competence is growing. And then eventually you plateau out at the plateau of sustainability. And that's where we want to end up. Now, I want you to overlay the Dunning-Kruger effect onto your risk tolerance that you are deciding on. When you're right at the beginning, you need to know that you are either approaching peak of Mount Stupid or you're on top of Mount Stupid. If you have done fewer than, say, 15 deals, you're not yet necessarily on top of Mount Stupid. I would say the Mount Stupid platform is typically between like maybe 10 to 30, maybe 40 or 50 deals, somewhere in there, where you've done enough to be like, I'm killing it, but you haven't necessarily done enough to be like, I'm killing it, and I've seen every situation that's going to pop up at me, and I can really accurately, reflect these risks. In those first 15 to, let's say, 50, just to pull a number out, deals, you need to be working on your consistency of deals and trying to get deals in the same way on a repeatable fashion so that you're really conquering your scope of knowledge at that point in time. Once you've gotten to that level and you've kind of experienced that valley of despair, you got through the high confidence where you're like, dude, I know Grant told me to worry about this, but I just feel really good about it. If you've never gotten to that point where you were there and then you were at the point where you're like, oh, yeah, I actually totally didn't realize how deep this well went. You're still approaching peak stupid. And you've got to be aware of that. And so I want you to overlay that thought process on top of the bell curve that I'm talking about right now with your risk tolerance. When you are getting into a deal, I want you to be looking at the fact that you may be willing to take lots of risk, then you might need to get conservative, then you might need to go back up again. Kind of like what I was talking about a second ago of this this can follow your competency level, that kind of thing. Your amount of risk right here should go forward with your amount of experience. Because at first, like I said, you don't know what you don't know, but if you don't have a lot of assets to risk, then okay, right? You can put it all on black sometimes. Then you need to be aware that you're approaching peak of Mount Stupid. And then once you've hit peak of Mount Stupid, you've hit that valley of despair, you start to have that larger competency, you've started to gain more experience, then you might be a little bit more well equipped to make those big risks again, because we are not gamblers. We are investors. Okay? I'm going to say that again. We are not gamblers. We are investors. This goes back to one of the masterminds that, one of the very first masterminds that we did. Some of you know who Josh Dees is. He's a great dude. Love the guy. He got started, came out, bought some houses, joined the mastermind, has killed it. His first year in the mastermind, he had several months where he's making, 50 grand a month plus on a deal here or a deal there. And it was amazing watching him grow. I really appreciated in one of the first masterminds that we did together, I was presenting something about how to avoid risks in a certain situation, and it got pretty complicated, right? I can do some crazy stuff to make sure that everything is taken care of. And somebody was like, geez, Grant, like you're super risk adverse. And Josh goes, nah, man, Grant's not risk adverse. Grant's risk aware. And I love that phrasing. That's what I want you guys to walk away with today, right? I want you guys to walk away with risk awareness. You don't have to be afraid of risk. You have to be aware of the risks that you're taking. It's why I go back to, I don't care what you're doing. I care that you have a why behind what you're doing. As long as you're making an informed decision, it goes wrong, you knew that it might go wrong, and that's okay. That was part of the deal. What you don't want to do is jump in feet first without realizing some of the risks that were on the other side and losing everything. So being risk aware allows you to, quote unquote, risk everything, as I have done many times in my career, as recently as a couple of years ago. Putting it all on black, saying, look, I know what's coming in the future, I know where I want to go, and it's going to take me risking it all to get there. And we go through it, made the adjustments where they were necessary to be situated in a good spot within that risk, and then took the dive, and it worked, right? Because it wasn't just a gamble, it was well informed, and it was risk aware, okay? So the ROI is not just your return on investment. Return on investment is great in hindsight analysis. But if you were looking forward to what you might want to do in the future on a deal, whether or not you might want to do it, that is where you have to be aware of the other ROI that nobody talks about, which is your risk on investment. So thank you guys. Brady, it's good to see you, man. I love it. He says, in other words, it gets worse before it gets better. Peak stupid to the moon. Let's get that coin. Yeah. Tom saying it's ignorance is bliss. I get it, man. It can be. And, frankly, some of the times that we are taking those risks and taking those ignorant risks, especially at the beginning, right? That's why I'm talking about that bell curve. See, this bell curve, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. This bell curve right here is where your risk is and where your competency is. It's okay when ignorance is bliss to get out there and do some stuff, because you should know when you're getting started that you don't know what's going on and that you might screw stuff up. So you're just going to take action, right? Remember when I was talking about, I don't want you to get wrapped up and do analysis paralysis, right? You need to take action. And guess what? That action might not pay off, but you've got to take it. You need to be as aware as you know, can be before it starts hindering your progress. So you take that action. And then as your experience grows, that's when ignorance stops being bliss and starts being a risk. That's where it starts affecting the fact that, hey, I've got assets now. And if I take this unnecessary risk, it might not pay off and I might lose some serious work that I've put in for this last few years, right? So I love that. So there is just so much to cover on that, right? I see, Ken, you've got a question in here about kind of buying sub twos. It's a little bit off topic here. I'd suggest bringing that into the Monday night Q&A. As a member, we can go over it on those times there. Again, guys, drop comments. If you've got any questions or anything like that, I do want to go and stroll through these things and handle those up for us later. Jeremiah, I miss seeing you too, man. The Rap Donut, he's an old schooler. He's got that backstory on it. And Luis, good to have you in here too. I like just seeing everybody still be active and still get out there. Here's the thing with the mastermind. I just remembered I was going to make this announcement. So many of you might not know the name Mike Powell. Those of you who do know Mike Powell's name are like, oh? You probably know the name Mitch Stephen. Mitch Stephen and Mike Powell are business partners. Mike Powell is kind of the integrator, get things done on the real estate investment side nowadays, as Mitch has built his empire and is taking some very well-deserved step back from the day-to-days, but Mike has done a phenomenal job of building their company over these last several years. I think probably 10 years they've been partnered, maybe plus. And he's just a great guy, great heart, and I can't say enough about him. The real deal, right? There's so many people on Facebook that want to show you their Lambo and, put up a video of it. And they're just fake. This guy is the real deal. I've been to their office. I've looked at the assets. I've seen it firsthand, and he knows what he's talking about. We are super lucky that our next mastermind, which is August 26th and 27th here in the Dallas area, we're going to be doing it in downtown McKinney, a hotel. I think it's called the Grand Hotel. It's attached to Rick's Chop House, which is a delicious steakhouse, which we'll be having dinner at on that Thursday night. But Mike is going to come up from San Antonio, and he's going to spend the day with us on Thursday, the 26th, going through all of the innovative things that they have done to build their business, from acreage to storage units to owner financed single families to owner financed mobile homes, right? They've done so many diverse and innovative things to get into those assets, to analyze those assets, to make sure that they are not gambles, that they are investments. And he's going to be an open book for us, and just, as it always is at our masterminds, really being a full-blown water hose on just full open, right? And I want you guys to be a part of that. I really want you to have the ability to sit, because the other thing is he's going to hang out with us for the day. He's going to go have dinner with us that night, and you're going to get to ask questions to somebody that you might not have been able to be in the room and ask some questions about their portfolio with Mitch and Mike Stevens. That's a freaking huge deal right there, right? So join us. The masterminds that I'm in, I love them because I refer to it as paid proximity, right? There's guys in that room that there's no way I would be in the room with them rubbing elbows if I hadn't paid to be there. And then we get to know each other, and we get to know some deep ins and outs. And every time I leave a mastermind, I leave with another $1 million worth of ideas and stuff. So if you're interested in joining a mastermind, if you're interested in taking things to that next level, and you're more interested in kind of building your legacy, right? Understanding that, yeah, you'd like creative finance to be that core of your legacy, but that on the way you're going to do wholesaling, you're going to have some rentals, you're going to do some flips, you've got to know how to do all of these things. What that means is that you have to build a business that buys houses for you, not a support system that forces you to continue buying houses, which is what you see most people doing, right? All the VAs, all the this, that, and the other, and they got golden handcuffs. They have to take the sales calls. They have to go on the appointments. I haven't stepped in one of my houses in a few years, and we're buying a bunch of houses still, right? You need to have a business that works for you. And we're going to get to learn a lot about that at this mastermind. That's what Creative Cash Flow really focuses on, is let's talk about that legacy wealth. Let's talk about the long-term play here, the different cycles of real estate that we're going to be going through, and what that means to run a business in real estate that's going to continually buy houses for you with a lot of work, right? We're not going to act like it's easy, because it's not easy. So if you're the type of person who's more interested in using the word legacy than you are the word hater, we're probably your group. There's a lot of groups out there that are going to talk about, getting back at the haters and this is a war zone. That's not us. We share. We are open with information. We're an open book. I want you to be part of that. Nothing makes me happier than seeing other people's lives get changed in this, kind of similar to like what I was talking about with Dee's earlier. I don't remember any of the real houses that we did last year. What I remember is the video that he sent us being like in a house, like, guys, I just made $55,000 on this house, and it was because of what you taught us. Like, that's what I remember, right? I want to see that same thing happen for you. So, Jermon, good to see you. Glad to be back as well. We're going to be hitting some consistency here. Like I said, I was able to take a little bit of a sabbatical because why else do we work for this? Why else do we do real estate? If not, what happened is I bought a cabin out in the mountains, and I'm standing on the top of a mountain looking out at this beautiful landscape as my 3-year-old son is running around. And I got to thinking, I'm like, why am I still working my butt off so hard? Like, this is why I worked so hard, was to get to the point that I can do this. So I took some time off, and it has been incredible, right? And I'm still kind of taking it a little bit easy for probably another year. But that's not, I'm not taking it easy on the education side, because this is something that I just am truly passionate about. And I've had to really reevaluate what my value is to the world, and understanding that now my value is not necessarily going out and talking to a seller and taking a deal down and doing that day in and day out. Now, with all the connections and experiences and knowledges and stuff like that, I think my value is really to be able to help other people get to that stage, right? And that's what I want to do. And so I'm passionate about that. If you are interested in joining, CreativeCashFlow.com/memberships, hit the button. It'll be me who shows up on the application Zoom call. We'll talk about it. If it's a good fit, we'll bring you in. Guys, this isn't for everybody. We are, not everybody gets to go to Harvard. We are not cheap. We are half the price of some of the most expensive ones that are out there, but it's a lot of money, and it's not for everybody. And so if you're interested in those things that I talked about before, and you want to kind of take that next step, please, CreativeCashFlow.com/memberships, hit the button. It'll take you to my calendar, and set a time that works for you and works for me. You'll see where my time's blocked out and that kind of stuff, and then we'll meet. We'll see if it works, and I would love to have you there. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. Again, big takeaways here is ROI is great. Your return on investment is great in hindsight. When you are analyzing the deal to go forward, you want to look at your other ROI, your risk on investment, and make your decisions based on that. I'm Grant Kemp, CreativeCashFlow.com. Loved having you guys here. I'll see you next week.